And I just had done my own research and said, hey, I'm coming into Bang. Let's go, right? I remember I walked in and showed up to that one, and they're like, who are you? Where did you come from? Right? And I walked in, and I had never seen it, that one at least. I'd never seen guys that big and strong, ever. Welcome to the Shaw Strength Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Mr. Nick Best is joining me here.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic, Brian Shaw.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. So it's good stuff. I mean, I don't see you enough, so it's really cool.
No, this is great. I'm glad that you're out in Colorado. We got to train yesterday and have a good time, and now we get the podcast. And I did tell you this podcast was going to be awesome.
Yes, you did.
So we're gonna make it awesome.
We're gonna make it awesome.
So we're gonna get into.
We're gonna keep drinking pre-workout
and have a lot lot of fun.
Yeah. Have a lot of fun.
Yeah, because you on caffeine tend to be fun.
Yeah, I get a little bit more of a personality.
That's right. That's right.
Wake up and get moving.
So let's start with growing up.
Okay.
I want to know about Nick Best growing up. What were you into? I know that you got into football.
Yeah.
For sure, but growing up, what was that like?
Well, I was a hyperactive kid.
Okay.
Big shocker.
Shocker.
It's ADD now, but back in my day, it was called hyperactive.
Okay.
I remember they gave me Ritalin to try to calm me down and turn me into a zombie, so that went out the window. And I would ride my bike everywhere, and like sometimes 20, 30 miles a day.
Wow. At what age?
I mean, this is like 10.
20 or 30 miles a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
10, 11, because I go out in the desert and ride my bike all over the place.
So you had room where you could just go do that type of stuff?
Well, Las Vegas back in that day
wasn't developed.
Wasn't nearly, there's only 400,000 people there.
Okay.
Total in the whole valley. And that includes Henderson. And now it's like almost 3 million. So it's valley to valley. But there was desert everywhere. There were hills in the desert because they dump hills and we go make dirt bike tracks and stuff like that.
Interesting. So it's just fun.
Yeah, just fun. Or I'd ride my bike out to Red Rock Canyon.
Oh, wow.
And back and ride the 13-mile loop, that type of stuff, all through my early teens.
Okay.
So did a lot of bike riding, stuff like that, because it just burning off the energy. And I played baseball.
Okay.
But baseball didn't burn off the energy.
Yeah.
Because, your pitch, it's not super strenuous.
Yeah, there's a lot of waiting for action to happen.
Yeah.
For sure.
So then, what was it, seventh grade? Seventh grade, we found football.
Okay.
Started playing football and started playing Pop Warner because it had weight categories and stuff because I wasn't very big.
Okay.
And fell in love with football. And that took all that extra energy and pent up, aggression and everything that I had, and I could put that into football.
So that was something you gravitated towards.
Yes.
Once you started. Now, that was what you said, seventh grade?
Yeah. So my freshman year of high school, I played junior midgets, which is 110 pounds or less.
Is that what they called it? Junior
midgets.
Wow.
The biggest one was midgets.
Yeah.
And I think that was 130 pounds.
Okay.
So I played junior midgets.
Yeah.
And I had to get on a scale every weekend before the game and weigh 110 or less.
Okay. Now, was there any problem with calling it that? I feel like today that might be something people would get.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah. So you were playing junior midgets, had to get on the scale and play. Yeah. And then at what point did you go over that weight?
My sophomore year, I started playing high school football.
Okay.
And I was on the JV team, and I was like a whole whopping 130 pounds.
And how tall?
About 5'3".
Really?
Yeah.
5'3", 130, a sophomore in high school.
Well, I was a year younger than everyone else too, so I didn't start my growth spurt till the end of my sophomore year, beginning of my junior year.
So you were say 13. What would that be? 13, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, 13ish.
So you were behind everybody. So
yeah,
really,
like
you're a sophomore, but really more a freshman.
Correct.
So to put this in perspective, freshman year of high school, I was 6'4". And I think it was like 225 or 230.
Yeah.
But
I didn't get to 225
so you were 130
until my senior year of college.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, man. So I was 100 pounds heavier there and quite literally a foot taller.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
Wow.
I grew over the sophomore and junior year. I like went away for summer and came back.
Okay.
And I was like, 5'11" and 175 pounds.
Okay.
And was able to make starting varsity as a defensive end.
So
and nose guard.
with football, was there ever lifting that came in?
I started my sophomore year because I was
Okay.
5'2" and 130 pounds. A guy named Anthony Bach, one of my dear friends still today,
Okay.
is the guy that dragged me into the weight room. He was a junior when I was a sophomore, so he
Okay.
was a year
So it's
ahead of me.
just a guy that like had started hanging out with, and he was like, "Hey, you got to start doing this training thing."
Yeah, from football. And
Okay.
he's just like, because I was always a hyper aggressive kid. There's nothing I do like half speed for the most part.
100%. I know that, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. I think that's going to be a little bit of a common theme.
Yeah.
But so sophomore year, you're walking in the weight room. You're 130 pounds.
Yeah.
5'3".
Bench 190. Bench 95 pounds the first time I ever benched.
Okay. So what was it like? Like you're going in, did you know much about lifting?
Nothing.
So Anthony, you said
I was following Anthony.
He's like, "Hey, I started doing this, Nick. Come on with me."
Yeah.
And you walked in there, and I mean, had you seen it in any magazines or anything like that, or is it just like?
I had started buying Muscle and Fitness.
Okay.
Started looking at the Arnold Schwarzenegger Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding.
Okay.
Stuff like that, but it was mostly bodybuilding stuff that I followed back then.
Yeah.
And then about into my junior year, Anthony had started doing powerlifting.
Okay.
His coach Katowski started a powerlifting team at our school, and that's when I started powerlifting.
So you had a weight room at the school, though.
We had
right?
a weight room, yeah.
Now, was it pretty accepted then? I mean, were there a lot of kids like getting into lifting, or what was the culture around that at that time?
So basically, our school was like 0-9
At football. Okay,
that year, and the goal was so the juniors that went 0-9 were like, we're not doing this anymore, and we're bringing the other younger generation in.
There you go.
And they're the ones that got us into the lifting and stuff like that. And then we did that same for the kids after us. And like a year and a half, I think a year or 2 years after I graduated, our school won state.
Awesome. So that culture changed.
Yeah, we completely changed the culture.
So now with you personally, when you walked in the weight room, I want to know about this. What was it like? You walked in there, you trained. I'm assuming you did bench press and
bench press,
some of the
squats, deadlifts. I mean,
so
power cleans.
you were doing all the major multi-joint movements.
Yes.
Early on. Now, how did you feel walking into a weight room? And I mean, was it immediate addiction? Was it an immediate, I love this? Or how long did it take to get that kind of firmly established for you?
Probably the first time I crawled underneath the bar. Like
So
we went to do squats, and we did whatchamacallit squats. Wow, I'm doing good today.
No, you're good. So
where you sit down and squat up and you hit the seat.
Oh, like a box squat.
Box squats.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. My brain's well today.
We're rolling, man.
So box squats. We did box squats first, and I think I did like 225 the first time I ever did it.
At 130 pounds.
That's from riding my bike everywhere under the sun.
That's impressive. Yeah.
So I've always had pretty strong quads and glutes from all that bike riding. And it really, it just took me into it. And I crawled under the bar, I did 225. I was like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, it was on at that point. And
so I know for me, when I first started, it was something where I walked in there and I could work hard, and then I started to see results. Yeah. And for me, that became very addicting. Yeah. So I would go in and work harder, see more results. So it sounds like very much the same thing. It's like, hey, I can put effort into this. I'm imagining it was a good energy expenditure for yourself.
It was.
Right? So you could put that in, and it benefited you physically, but also benefited you with football.
Correct.
Right? And so it sounds very similar to me, because of basketball, I could run faster, I could jump higher, I was more athletic, I was stronger.
Yep.
All of these things applied. So it sounds very similar, man. And it was about the same timeline for me, kind of freshman, sophomore year of high school. And then you get in and I feel like for guys at that age, your body's starting to change already a little bit. So, adding in that training it's a great time to add that into the mix. And it just makes your confidence grow in so many different ways. So I'm imagining you started putting on some weight then.
Yeah, I went from getting picked on to getting revenge.
There you go. So was that a motivating factor? Were you getting picked on a lot because of your size?
I did get picked on a lot because of my size back then. And then my junior and senior year, that ended.
Yeah, totally.
So, completely. And then it also helped me a lot at home because my stepdad was pretty rough. Okay. So all that stopped as well because he couldn't physically. So was that? I mean, that anymore.
How much of a motivating factor was that as well? I mean, because did you want to go out? You want to go out and, obviously, kids can be pretty nasty at school, right? So
Correct.
that's certainly one thing. But with your stepdad, and we've talked about that a little bit, like at different times. But for you, did you I'm imagining you kind of grew as a sophomore, junior, senior. So that when did you kind of get to where you are now, like 6'3", like that height? Did you grow?
I was 6 foot my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And then 6'3" was like my probably sophomore year of college.
Okay. So, and you were a year behind, so that kind of makes sense.
My sophomore year.
So your growth kind of stopped, but you were 6 foot. And what did you weigh senior?
Senior year in high school, I was 195.
Okay. But obviously a lot stronger.
Yeah. I squatted, I think 490 that year.
Yeah.
Benched 320. And deadlifted 425.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you essentially said, look, I'm going to do this, make these changes. Your confidence probably went through the roof.
Through the roof.
Right? And then you're saying to your stepdad, look, we're done with what you're trying to do?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's amazing how motivating things like that can be. And, I know, for me, I've talked to a lot of different people where they get into training and their confidence in so many aspects of their life, their confidence goes
radically
through the
changes.
roof. Right. And it carries over to so many different things. So it's not, you can get it.
My bad.
Yeah.
I'm just going to shut this off.
The crazy part of this is we talked about this maybe 3 different times before we started.
And I thought I shut it all the way off. So let's see here. Siri, shut my phone off.
This is I think there's like a power button.
Yeah.
Like hold down and then you. Oh my God.
James?
There you go. Grab it and get it done.
Sorry.
So anyways, the confidence will jump right back in.
Okay.
Confidence goes through the roof.
Yeah.
Senior year, you're getting into college. Now you played football in college too, right?
Correct. All through.
But powerlifting, I know you brought that up briefly. Yeah. Is that something you were training more powerlifting, or was it you competed?
I competed. I won the state championships in the 198s my senior year.
So did you start as a junior then?
Yes.
So it was kind of a natural fit. You're lifting, you're playing football, got into powerlifting.
To be bigger and stronger and faster.
And then you were on a scholarship, right, in college to play football?
Partial.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So how did that go, getting into college? I mean, because when you step up to that next level, the guys are a lot bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic. I mean, essentially, you're playing at another level.
Right. Well, first I went to JUCO.
Okay.
And we ended up having the number 1 ranked defense in the country, and I think we were ranked 3rd in the state of California for defense. Okay. We played in a bowl game against Glendale.
Awesome.
Stuff like that. So that was really cool. It went really good. Our coaches were more into conditioning, and he goes, I don't care if we'd start with like 80 guys, and our coach is like, I don't care if I start this season with 39 players. I'm going to have 39 players that will go all out every time they step on the field, no matter what. And I was on the starting defense, and then I was on all the special teams. So I only came off the field when the offense was on.
So when you got there, I mean, was that now was that at JUCO or that was?
That was at JUCO. That was Antelope Valley.
So your coach obviously sounds like he was wanting to take guys to a spot mentally where they would break or quit.
Yes.
All the time.
And he did that. And
Perfect.
the guys we started, when we started our first game, the guys we started with were guys that there was no
quit.
There's no quit.
Yeah.
There's no half-ass. There's no nothing. You gave everything that you had every time.
See, it's so interesting, and we haven't necessarily talked about that right now.
Yeah.
Before this is why this is so awesome, is you get to sit down and have these conversations. But I was very much in the same situation, because out of high school, I went to a little bit smaller high school, and then I, of course, wanted to go play. You want to go play at the biggest school you can.
Sure.
And so a lot of times the best route to go is to go to a JUCO. So I did that as well, playing basketball. Very similar, right? You walked in there, and our coach was a very military-minded individual, and it was, hey, I'm going to find out who wants this and who doesn't want it, right? And you're going to have to work, right? But it was taking us to the breaking point mentally. And you got to see who was going to quit, and you got to see who was going to make it through there, and essentially embrace that and be somebody that we could rely on.
Yeah,
on
100%.
the team. So it's interesting. Now, the question is, going through that, now is that molding you even more from where you were in high school, starting lifting, building confidence, your stepdad standing up to that situation. Now you're in a new situation with football where you've got to go through something very challenging, right? And overcome it.
Yep.
Right. And you're building these bonds, I'm sure, with the guys that you're playing with, and coming through that. Mentally at that point, how much do you think that going through that type of very hard conditioning molded you?
That changed my life.
Changed your life. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. From that point, I mean, I feel the same way. Right. Like, I'm thankful for it at the time. I'm not going to lie. There was days where I did not care. I did not care for my coaches very much. Right. And I was, a lot of times, that's a whole different story. And I'm not, we'll go into it at different times with different things, but I felt like I didn't necessarily fit in because of, I was more, to be fair, more of a football player playing basketball than a basketball player. And I got that comment a lot. I was just kind of like, everybody do this. And Brian, you do this because you're going to hurt somebody, it just was what it was. Right. But I was so thankful for going through that with my teammates. And, I had so much respect for those guys after going through it, and molded so much of the way that I approached things and my life, and that hard work and going through adversity and all of that. I felt like there was so much power in that. So it's cool to hear, you go through that. So, JUCO, you're doing well. And what position do you play?
My freshman year, I was a nose guard.
Okay.
And then
And how much were you weighing size wise? So you were at 6'3" then.
Yeah.
6'3".
205.
205. Okay. So still, I mean, like, for that position, I'm assuming you're kind of you're underweight.
But I was really fast. I ran a 4.844.
Well, and strong.
Yeah, and
so
strong.
Super powerful and strong.
And explosive.
Yeah.
And I mean, my whole goal was, as soon as the guys moved in front of me, was to drive him backwards 3 feet.
And you probably were successful.
Yeah. and just explode into him. And almost with like a gut punch as I was, sorry.
You're good.
As I was coming up with the, like firing off with the tripod and stuff like that.
100%.
Back then you hit with the crown of your helmet.
That's probably what they taught you, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I played football when I was younger too. It's like lead with your head.
Yeah.
You hit them right in their chest with your head.
Put them in the crosshairs.
Yeah. Go. Yeah.
And run through the crosshairs.
Yeah.
And, I would just blow guys back so fast because they didn't expect me to come off the ball that quick. Sure. And my leg drive was unbelievable. And I was getting to where I was benching just about, in the 400s. So my power was good. And
this is then what, 19, 20, somewhere in there?
18, 19.
Wow. That's great, man.
And because I lived in the weight room.
Yeah.
When I was.
So now when you go into college, I'm assuming with their football program there, it was, hey, we're all training.
We were, but it was crazy. The coach just looked at me and goes, look, just get the work in, do your thing. They didn't make me follow the program.
Interesting. Just because you were so strong at that point?
Because I was strong and I was, I guess, advanced, and I wanted to. They
do
could
more.
tell where my goals were because the coach talked to me about lifting.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I won the state championships in high school, and this is what I want to do. And they're like, oh yeah, just keep doing that.
Wow.
So I was like,
so they
cool.
they just kind of said, hey, you're athletic enough, you're strong enough. We can tell you want to do more. Go ahead and do it.
Guys would be in the gym, they do their training and leave. I would do my training and then train some more and train some more again and stay there. And then I'd be stretching and I'd go into rehab all the time.
Wow.
Whether I was injured or not, I'd go.
Now, is that all stuff that you...
We had a really good trainer.
Okay. Awesome.
Like a really good trainer. And
so you got that early?
From him.
Okay.
I learned a lot of that from him back then.
Now, with your training, were you coming up with a lot of that stuff? Or, they're saying you're going to go do your own program, for example.
That was the powerlifting stuff that I got from my coaches in high school, who was actually a powerlifting coach too. Okay. So I got that mostly from Coach Gutowski.
Interesting. So you're still focused mainly on basically squat, bench, deadlift, big power movements, some accessory work, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you have this space, you're walking in and they're like, hey, you're good, Nick. You kind of do your own thing. These other guys don't want to work as hard as you. You're going to outwork them. So Correct. You're outworking those guys in that situation as well. So where did it go from there?
From there, I went up to Sonoma State, finished my last 2 years up there.
And were you playing the same position?
I was playing defensive end, yeah.
Defensive end. So you
went from my sophomore year, I moved out to defensive end.
Okay.
I was so fast. And
it seems like that would be a better spot for you.
Yeah, because they kind of changed up our defense.
Okay.
And we either have a stacked nose guard and other nose guard behind him. They'd stack them. So one was almost like a linebacker and the other one's a nose guard.
Okay.
So this one was big and this one was just pretty big and fast. This one was 260 and this one was like 230.
Okay.
And then I was out on one end, now at 210.
Okay.
And then this guy, Casey James, just a total animal.
Okay.
But he was only like 190, but he ran a 4.5.
Wow.
So these two would blow up the middle and collapse the pocket.
Yeah.
So the quarterback would have to run to one side.
And then
he's got me going on one side. He's got Casey on the other side. So I played strong side. He played weak side. So I always had the tight end side.
Awesome.
And
I'm assuming you thrived a little bit more with that position or enjoyed that.
Yeah. Like my sophomore year, I had 13 sacks.
That's great.
So it was pretty good. And 2 interceptions.
There you go. So Sonoma State, you said.
Yeah, then I went up to Sonoma State.
And played, and then you stuck with defensive end there?
Stuck with defensive end there.
Okay. And then finished up. Now, at this time, I'm assuming you weren't doing any powerlifting while you were just training.
I was just training that
but
way.
not necessarily doing contests because you're doing football. Yeah.
Right.
So get done with football.
In 1990.
1990, okay. So then from there.
91, I won the state championships in the 220s. In the USPF. The USPF.
Bring that a little bit closer.
Sorry.
There you go.
Better?
Yep.
There we go.
Perfect.
In the, U.S. Natural Division.
Awesome. So, and this 91. Is 91. So was there any, with football, hey, I'm sad to be done with football?
Oh, yeah. It was very depressing. I couldn't watch it for a couple of years.
When you're finishing up, you're just kind of like
there was 2 years I couldn't even watch it. The first 2 years afterward.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so you were sad.
I was in lock, stock, and barrel. So yeah, I was really sad. It was kind of depressing, but I just turned that into powerlifting
and rolled from there.
So
it was that competitive outlet, right? Because I'm assuming the competitiveness with all of this when you're going through growing up, right? And you're getting into training. What do you think drove you to be so competitive, to push yourself harder? Because you're going to college with guys, high school, college, whatever, and they're putting in their work, right? Yeah. But you're putting in more work.
Correct.
If you had to say, where did that internal drive, like what drove Nick Best to go to that level all the time and put it in like that?
I found something I loved that loved me back that I just enjoyed doing.
Okay.
I really honestly enjoy the process of the training and the work and all that stuff. It's just something I thrive on.
So from a work standpoint, you just enjoyed the process and you could see kind of like what we talked about earlier on. It's like, hey, if I go in and put in hard work, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get stronger.
I'm going to get rewarded for it. And this is my niche.
Yeah.
Because I know for my size, I've always been extremely powerful and extremely strong.
Yeah.
So I was just like, look, I'm just going to take this as far as I can. I really enjoy this.
So you graduated from college at what weight?
220.
220. Which, I mean, in all fairness, you're talking sophomore in high school, 130.
And then
right? So that you're 100 pounds heavier in 7 years.
Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty significant work.
Yeah.
You know, and so now at this point you're 6'3", and then, I mean, you're, so then were you competing when you competed in powerlifting? Was that 242s or was it 220?
The first one I did in 91 was in 220s.
220s. Okay.
And then I didn't come back and start powerlifting until 93. And then
Okay.
I switched to the 80 FPA and I competed in 93 in Santa Rosa, California at the state championships. And Michael Hearn caught me by 5 pounds.
Really?
He was the last guy in California to ever beat me.
And then from that point,
I won 6 straight California championships and 6 straight overall best lifters in California. During that time frame, I won the national championship twice and won worlds once. We didn't have
Worlds was what was that? 90? Was it 97?
96.
96. Okay.
97 it was canceled.
So, but you went unbeaten for that stretch from 93 to 90
in California. Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Nationals, you know, Bull Stewart was there, stuff like that. But
sure.
I still won in 96 and 97.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So you went on a pretty good run there.
Yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, and so now did you bump from 220, 242, and then 275?
Mm-hmm.
So which class did you feel like when you got into the 275, was that more like, all right, I kind of found my home? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, Dave Aggio, Kenny Aggio's brother, Kenny's a dear friend of mine still to today. He's the godfather of Dylan. I mean,
that's awesome. Yeah.
I owe that guy so much.
Yeah. No, it's good. Here's the thing, man. You touch on things, and you know, people along your path impact you in so many different ways. And I mean, it's as you get older and you look back, right? Like things like that. It's like people played roles, which is awesome. So I mean, this guy, I mean, you said he's Dylan's godfather.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Just unbelievable human.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah.
Now I got to calm down again.
You're good.
No, so I basically learned more how to be a good person, a good father, a good friend from him than probably anybody.
But what year did you meet him?
89.
Okay.
89.
So he was with you. So you were still playing football then?
I was still playing football. I was just finishing up football.
Okay.
I was a personal trainer at the gym in Katati.
Okay.
The 24-hour gym in Katati.
Okay.
Right there. It's like a mile down the road from Sonoma State.
Okay.
So
you started doing that to earn some extra money while you were in college.
Correct.
Finished up. Gotcha. Perfect.
Yeah. And his brother was a powerlifter, Dave Aggio, back then. And he was a good one. I mean, at 220, he was deadlifting 727, squatting in the mid-sevens, and benching about 500 pounds.
Wow, that's great.
Dave was a really good. Dave, I walk in, and the first thing Dave looks at me and goes, "You're not a 220er." He just starts laughing. He goes, "You're 275 or even super heavyweight." And I'm like, "I'm never going to get that big. I'm never going to gain that much weight." He goes, "Yeah, okay."
It's coming.
Dave turned out to be kind of right.
Yes, he was. So you kind of met, you know, and had people influence.
Oh,
you know that. You know, it sounds like a good man, right?
Yeah, great man.
You know, and I think that, you know, by and large, and I mean, we're a little bit off topic, but yeah. I think just within this world, if you will, right, the lifting world, that community, there's so many men like that. But I would say, and you could tell me your thoughts. Mm-hmm. I would say that so many men that are willing to go down this path and put that hard work in, it teaches you so much about yourself, but also about work ethic, about your life, in general, and you know, somebody that's willing to put that in, and they're the type of guy, I would say, if they shake your hand and say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. Yeah, right. Like it's integrity. It's integrity. So somebody like that saying, "Hey," to a young Nick Best, "Look, you know, come in here. I'm going to kind of help you along your path and you know, show you different stuff and whatever." you know, if he's been there and done it, that's somebody that you can trust.
Yeah.
Right. And that's big. That's
yeah.
really big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, they really played a big part of like my growing. I mean, their father, Sam, really raised them well.
Sure.
And the love that they had and the stuff with the father and their interactions, I kind of modeled that as how I wanted to be as a parent.
Yeah.
So it was,
That's great.
It was cool. It was a good experience.
No, that's great. So we're at 96.
Mm-hmm.
You're world champion, and that was in 275s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was 268 and we had weigh-ins. So I'm down in front of everybody. Everybody's starving, spitting. Cause back then you had to weigh in 2 hours.
It was a 2-hour weigh-in. Yeah. I think a lot of younger lifters don't realize that. Cause what do they get? 24 hours now?
Yeah.
God, it's so much different.
So all these crazy weight cuts that they did to you couldn't really do it back then. You didn't want to cut more than 5 pounds.
No, you're walking in.
You had 2 hours.
In my mind, it would be better to just walk in weighing like 268, 270, whatever, and be comfortable. Say, okay, cool. Put a scale in front of me. I'm good.
Yeah. So I was sitting there eating while everybody was spitting and starving.
They probably loved you for that.
I got called a few bad names.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing?
But that's kind of intimidating when the guy that's going to beat you, you're having to cut weight and he's just walking up and saying, I'm strong enough, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it was cool. I think I weighed 270 that day total. I was like 268 before breakfast.
Okay.
So I was like, I can go eat.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's talk now, say 97, 98, because you didn't start strongman until, what was it, 2004?
Is when I did my first contest, yeah.
Okay. Now, did you do many powerlifting contests between that time period or what?
I didn't do a whole lot in that time period. I did a couple in 99. I did the national championships in 99. I think I got third. I got an inguinal hernia.
Oh, boy.
And so the recovery and stuff like that from that was kind of rough.
Yeah.
And then I did a contest in 2001 in Nevada when I moved back to Nevada.
Okay.
And won the Nevada State Championships and Best Lifter in 2001. And then I didn't do powerlifting anymore.
Okay.
And then in 2003, Mark Philippi had a contest at UNLV that Carl Gillingham and Grant Higa and a whole bunch of the guys I competed with.
Did Phil Pfister do that
Phil
one?
Pfister
Okay.
did that one.
Okay. And that was 2003.
John Anderson did that one.
Okay.
They did that, and then I saw him get paid at the end of it. And I was
like what?
I was like, wow, you can make money doing this. And then Dylan, who's like this big at the time, he's like a little over 2. Dad, you're pretty strong. You should do this. This is cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, your son saying that, you know, it's a big deal. So what year was Dylan born?
2001.
2001. So in that time period, like, it sounds like you kind of almost took a little bit of you dabbled, like did some powerlifting stuff, but it wasn't necessarily as kind of boom, 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 like through the mid 90s there.
Right.
So, I mean, was that kind of like, hey, I'm moving around or I'm doing career stuff, or what was the thoughts there? Yeah.
So I had the injury, and then after that, I moved back to Vegas. I did the powerlifting meet. And then after that, kind of had Dylan. He was young, he was small. It made it very difficult.
Now, did you grew up like because you mentioned Vegas early on, and then you said California. So how much time did you grow up in California versus Vegas?
About 9 years.
9 years.
About total.
And then you came back to Vegas.
I came back to Vegas.
Okay. Interesting.
And then Anthony Bach, who I mentioned earlier, his parents own a pawn shop and a liquor store and a clothing store.
Okay.
And I would already been, like in Northern California, I was the liquor manager at a grocery store.
Okay.
Ended up becoming the night crew head clerk. So I ordered everything for the whole entire store.
Interesting.
And so I was good at ordering things, and I had liquor experience already.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need a manager for my liquor store. Why don't you move home and do that? And I was like, okay.
It's a good fit.
Yeah. So I took off and did that.
So that's kind of where you got into that, because when I first met you, you were doing that hardcore for Coors. Is that right?
Yeah, Coors at first. It was DeLuca Liquor and Wine and Coors of Las Vegas. That became Wirtz. That became Breakthrough. So I don't know what it's called now.
Yeah. So 2003, you hear about this contest, and you're like, hey, I'm going to go check this out.
Mark
how much
invited
did you
me.
know about strongman?
Nothing.
Had you watched it before?
Yes.
Okay.
I watched it. I watched like Marius winning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to get that guy. I think I can compete against
So
him.
you're kind of comparing, obviously you're already very much into the competitive powerlifting and everything, but you saw something strongman on TV and it's like, hey, that looks like fun. I feel like I could do that. And so you're like, hey, this contest is coming to Vegas. I'm going to go check it out, see what these guys are all about.
Yeah. Philippi was the national champion in the weight class above me in the 319s.
Okay.
In 96.
Okay.
And in 97, I believe.
So you had already met him a little bit.
And he was on the world team and stuff like that. We knew each other, and he invited me out to watch. So I came out and watched.
So you were invited to watch?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't just kind of like him random. It's like, oh, hey, Mark said, why don't you come out and check this out? Whatever. So what was your impression? First time.
I was like, this is cool.
You're seeing these guys. Now, I mean, obviously, guys like Phil and Carl, I mean, these are big dudes.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, coming out there to watch them, what was your first impression? Are you like, hey, I'm good? I mean, did you think anything about their size, weight, et cetera, compared to where you were at? Or it was like, nah, I know I can handle this.
I knew because I've competed against Carl. I've competed against Grant.
There you go. So you've already got your feet wet.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I know I can move around. I know
if
I'm
they can
athletic.
do that, I know I sure can.
I love it. So after that point, you go watch this contest. How do you get your feet wet in strongman from there?
There's a contest that was at March Air Force Base, and I remember it was like a World's Strongest Woman qualifier and then a pro qualifier type of contest at March Air Force Base.
Okay.
And I just signed up and went to do it. Didn't train it, didn't know anything about it.
So no equipment, no nothing, just kind of basing it all on powerlifting training and let's go get it on.
Let's go see what happens.
And how'd it go?
I was right in the middle of the pack.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I wasn't strong enough. I just didn't know what I was doing.
Of course. Yeah.
So.
But you loved it.
I loved it.
Okay.
Josh Bryant was there.
Okay.
Jim Glassman was there.
Awesome.
There was a lot of really cool dudes from back in the day that were there.
So I mean, we're talking. This is I guess. Was there really a pro class at that time, or it was just kind of this open? Yeah. We're coming, everybody. Yeah. So I mean, these are all the guys that at that time were at the top.
Right.
Right. So your first contest isn't necessarily what some amateurs would consider now. Oh, I'm going to go do the novice division of this contest.
This was jumping into deep end.
You just go, right?
Yeah,
hey, let's go figure out how strong I am.
Just right in.
Yeah. Because this is early on kind of, of course, strongman was, started in 77 with World's Strongest Man. But as far as here in the States, I feel like kind of the mid 90s, a little bit later on, it started to grow a little bit more. And then by 2002, 3, 4, it started to be a little bit more established, but still not what it is now.
No.
At all. So you're going against guys that are, this is not an amateur lineup you're going against. You're talking about these guys have been doing it. They're the best, pretty much the best in the country, right? At that point.
Right.
So going mid-pack on your first contest against them is not bad.
No, not bad at all.
Especially with no equipment, no training, whatever. So I just want people to understand. We're not, I feel like a lot of people get that confused with, wait a minute, you went to the amateur contest and you took no. It's a whole different level that we're talking here. So you go there, you do that, you love it.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
What's next is a contest here in Colorado.
Okay.
It was in November of that year, and everybody was making a big deal because the guy who got fourth at nationals was going to this contest.
Okay.
And he was going to whoop everybody's tail.
Who was that?
I can't even remember the guy's name.
Okay.
It was so long ago. But,
where was it at? In Colorado.
Here in Denver.
Was it?
Yeah.
What was it called?
I can't even remember. I got it at home on the trophy.
Interesting. So you come out. So you come out to Colorado, and this is another pro lineup.
Well, it was an amateur lineup, and the guys were trying to qualify to go to ASC Nationals.
Okay.
Or whatever it was called.
And this is 2004, 5?
2004.
Okay.
And it was right at the end of 2004. And this guy had come, and everybody's like freaking out about it, and I beat him as bad as he beat everybody else.
So going into this,
I won all the events but the log.
That's awesome, man. So going into this Colorado contest, did you have equipment at that point? Anything? Were you training on anything, or what? I mean, did you try to You just rolled with, you left that other contest and said, oh, I'm good. I feel like I'm strong enough.
Well, I went to the gym. I was training at a 24-hour fitness.
Okay, so you didn't have access
to nothing
at all.
And so I took the 150-pound dumbbells because they're kind of hexed.
Yeah.
And banded them together with the 145s to make 295-pound farmer's walk implements.
Interesting.
That were really hard.
Oh,
because
I bet.
So
that's how you're training. That's how you're training for farmers.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Which paid off when I went to IFSA Worlds.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, so you just tried to basically copy whatever you could to train for it.
Correct.
So you kind of learned a little bit and you said, hey, this is what I've got. This is my setup. I'm just going to make it happen.
Yeah. And we had a shield carry at that event.
Okay.
And so I took the dumbbells and banded them together.
Wow.
And hugged them that way to do the shield carry.
So you just tried to improvise.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So you come out here, win that.
Yep.
And where does that get you to?
So that gets me to going to Kokomo and meeting Chad Coy.
Okay.
And it was a pro-am. Yep. So the pros and the AMs were in. Mm-hmm. And Chad remembers the guy's name that won, but he beat me on the deadlift on the very last 10 seconds of the contest.
Oh, wow.
Bergman was in it, and Bergman pulled 11.
Okay, so this is Jason Bergman.
Jason Bergman.
Okay.
And the number to beat was, between the two were 7, so I pulled 8, and it was everything I had to pull 8.
Okay.
Because I knew there was no way I was getting to 11.
Yeah.
So I stopped, and then turned, and if he zeros it, I win.
Okay.
If he gets 1, he wins. And we beat all the pros that were in the contest.
Interesting.
And with 10 seconds to go, he squeaks out 1. And I was like, okay, cool.
And so it was Jason Bergman had pulled 8? Is that what you said?
No, Jason Bergman had pulled 11.
11, yeah. I was going to say
somebody pulled
a good one for him.
And then somebody pulled 7.
Interesting.
And so my target goal was 8.
Go in and that's what you do,
yeah.
right? Because it's either you beat 11 or you pull 8 and, you know,
right.
That's, yeah, for sure. So this other guy, you don't remember his name?
No.
Okay.
If you ask Chad Coy, Chad
I'm sure
he's,
yeah. So anyways, you go to there, he beats you there.
And disappears.
Okay.
Yeah, never saw him compete again.
So that was your third contest?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
and
then
a month later,
yeah,
I go to Vans contest in Utah.
Okay.
The year before you did.
So you were there in 2004.
I was there in 2005.
5. That's right.
You
5.
won in
Sorry.
2006.
Yeah, I'm mixing up. We're going through the years, and it's like, you're right. So 5. 2005, Van puts on Utah's Strongest Man.
Correct.
And that's now the sport has evolved to where there is a pro card that you can earn.
Correct.
Right. So and that kind of started around 2004, 3, 4.
4.
So now you're going after your pro card there.
Correct.
And it's another pro-am, right?
But, yeah.
Pro-am. So early on, and just so everybody listening understands, you know, with the sport, things have changed a lot. A lot. But, you know, it used to be a pro-am, and this is how I started too, which is exactly the same. So you would go and you would do a contest with the pros and the amateurs together, and whoever placed the highest out of the amateurs in that contest would then get their pro card.
Correct.
That's kind of how it went. So so you're entering this pro-am in Utah.
Yeah.
And you remember going into that, were you pretty confident of being the top amateur, or where were you at?
I was actually just going for experience.
Really?
Because
this is fourth contest. Wow.
And I talked to Chad.
Yeah.
And Chad's like, dude, just do more contests, get more experience, get your hands on the equipment. I'd never even done Atlas stones yet.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I go sign up for the contest just to get more experience.
Yep.
And I get there, and there's 7 pros in the contest. So there's a lot of pros this time.
Mm.
Travis Ortmeyer being one of them, Kevin Nee being another one. And so we were there, and the first event is a tire flip and Hummer drag.
Yep.
And, you know, Travis is a big thing back then.
Yeah. So that's a good event for you.
And it's a good event for me.
Yeah.
And Travis nips me by a half a second.
Okay.
And then all the other pros are behind me, and then the amateurs. So I pick up 6 points against all the other amateurs in that one. Next event's the log, and I was down towards the bottom of that.
Yep.
I was like, okay, well, that's cool. At least I picked up some points, you know, whatever. Then we went to the frame carry, and it was Van's frame, and it's 800 pounds.
Yep.
And Travis picks it up and smokes the course.
Yep.
I pick it up, and I'm smoking the course, and my hand callus tears off.
Oh, no.
I drop it, pick it up, finish the course. We're the only two that finished. Kevin Nee got it off the starting and got about 4 steps in and dropped it.
All things considered, that's a big weight for back then.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking 800 pounds, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's still respectable today.
Well, and Van's hands.
They're nasty, yeah.
They're thick.
I know, I definitely know about that, yeah. But so how the rest of the contest?
They all zeroed it.
Wow.
So
you
now,
made up all the points in the log, and
I made up another 6 points.
okay.
So then we go to the deadlift, and the ASC deadlift record, I think at that time was 755,
Okay.
and it was Travis's record. So the amateur deadlift record was 755, and my opening attempt was a little over 700.
Okay.
Pulled that. Kevin did his 2, and his last one was 765, and he was done. He did his 3 attempts. Travis and I both pulled 765, and I broke his record. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to beat my record?" And I'm like, "Yep." And I pulled it up, beat it. I'm like, "There you go." He's
That's
like,
awesome.
and he looks at me. He's like, "You want 800? You want 800?" I'm like, "Yeah, put it on the bar.
Yep.
Put 800 on the bar."
Yeah.
So they put 800 on the bar, and Travis goes up, pulls it to his knees, and drops it.
Okay.
And I'm like, "Are you done?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." Walk up, grab the bar, pulled it right up, broke the record again, set it down. I won, and I picked up 7 points against everyone else.
There you go.
Because nobody got in between the pros.
Okay.
None of the amateurs were beating the pros in anything. And I calculated it out. I was like, if I zero the Atlas stones, I still win by 2 points.
Still got
I've
it.
already won. And I'm like bouncing around.
So,
Dion.
but that was the first time you did stones?
Yeah, never touched them.
When you turned pro was the first time you did
Yeah,
stones?
yeah.
That's insane, man.
Dion's yelling at me, "You need to go do the stones." I'm like,
Yeah.
"But I already won." She's like, "Go do the stones."
So the question is, how did the stones go?
Well, you know Van's stones.
Yes,
You know
yeah.
how pocked up and...
They were pretty nasty. Yeah.
So the first one went okay. The second one was a little bit of a struggle. The third one was awful. And by then I was so raw on my forearms, I didn't want any part of the other 2 that were left.
So I went down, the first time I did stones, it was my second contest, right? Never touched them, never trained with them, never did anything. Just go to a contest and make it happen, right? I ripped my arm so bad on those stones, and I wouldn't stop. And I almost finished. The run ended with a, I want to say it was either a 385 or 400, right? The first time I touched them. And almost, I picked it up, I think 4 different times. The last one, it was the worst technique you've ever seen, probably. But my arms were so messed up.
They were shredded.
And I didn't know how to clean off the tacky, right? So I had tacky on for the first time, tacky, ripped arms. And I literally, this is horrible of me, but I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. But the only thing I could think of was like Goo Gone.
Yeah.
Right? To get the stuff off.
Yeah.
Now, I went back to my hotel room and I was still had the tacky on, right? Because there wasn't really, the communication wasn't great back then from other guys. Like, hey, let me help you out. Let me kind of show you this. So I went back there and I kind of was like, well, all right, I got to clean this up. I'm going to hop in the shower, right? Mm-hmm. And I put that on my arms. So like, it's like the Goo Gone, right? Not meant for going in open wounds.
Yeah.
It was, honestly, man, like I got dizzy. It hurt so bad. It was ridiculous. Burnt, like, oh, it was horrible. And I remember I was like sweating and panicking and like, I'm trying to clean this up. I got it cleaned up. And then I learned like later on, somebody was like, Brian, what were you doing? You shouldn't have, done that. That was really stupid. It was really stupid. I learned the hard way that you should not be doing that. But yeah, I didn't finish that last, I was, to be fair, that was one of the only Atlas Stone runs of my career. Didn't get done, but I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. So it's funny, coming out, because I feel like not very many people would have that same experience nowadays, because everybody can find some place normally to find some stones or drive and, hey, drive a little bit, go to this place, train the stones, get better.
Well, there's so much more of it around right now.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, so it's evolved a lot, but. Going back, so you win Turn Pro, 2005, right? And then from there...
Go straight into a custody battle for Dylan.
Oh, boy.
With my ex-wife.
So personal life kind of takes over at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that, affect everything?
Well, everything became unimportant.
Right? Well, your son is number one.
Yeah.
Number one.
And so it took 6 months to get all that worked out. It got worked out. It got put to bed. We're all good. Nothing changes for me. I just had to move back in from Overton back into Las Vegas.
Okay.
So that got smoothed out. And then it was done and over. And then I got back training again. So the first contest I go to do is the year you turn pro back.
So Utah Strongest Man. So that was my, let's see, it would have been 5th contest. I did. So I went from two, the one in Colorado was Denver Strongest Man. First time I did that. And then I went and did, I think they called it New Mexico Strongest Man. So I drove there, and all within a month. Then I went to St. Louis, which was my first pro-am, right? And mind you, at this time, I didn't know anybody. Right. I didn't know anybody at all. So I drove from Colorado to St. Louis to enter this thing. And I showed up, and back then it was kind of, who do you know? Yeah. Right. And this group's training this group. And it was kind of like, oh, I know these guys. And they kind of showed me the ropes, and you get in this way. And I just had done my own research and said, hey, I'm coming into Bang. Let's go. Right. I remember I walked in and showed up to that one, and they're like, who are you? Where did you come from? Right. And I walked in, and I had never seen at that one, at least I'd never seen guys that big and strong ever. Right. Yeah. And I walked in, and I, not that I was small, certainly, but you're walking into a pro-am level, 2000, that would have been beginning of 2005. So, guys, you guys were there, right? They're big, they're strong, they know what they're doing. I'm coming in, I've never done anything. So it's kind of the same thing. You jump in head first, man.
Just go in the deep end.
The first yoke, well, actually, no, I take that back. Second yoke. I did my first yoke I ever carried was in a contest, 650, and I did okay with that. So that one then was 910, and this was a month later. I didn't have a yoke to train with. So 650, 910. I remember I picked that thing up and took 2 steps. I thought I had torn both of my quads or blown my knees or something, because it just felt like the worst. I took way too big of steps. Yeah. Right. It was I finished it. I dropped it about 10 times, but I finished that thing, which I'm proud of. In hindsight, 910 was the second yoke I ever put on my back, was 910. So, but it's so, and we could share these stories all day, but it's like the common denominator is we didn't have all the equipment. And you go compete, right? So it's not perfect training, not perfect conditions. I'm not well prepared for any of this. Yep. I'm just training. I was training in a world gym. It sounds like you were training in kind of like a more normal gym like
Gold's
that.
or 24-hour fitness.
Yeah. And they don't have a setup for this stuff.
No.
Right. So you're going in and essentially trying to make it happen. And for me, and I've talked about this before, but I found a guy that was going to that gym that actually found some scrap metal and welded me my first stuff, because I couldn't afford anything. Couldn't afford anything, right? So you go in and you try to, hey, can you make me a yoke? It was very rickety and whatever, but it worked. And I did it. And then I had farmers and a frame, and then I ended up buying a log after that because I was getting into it. So I started to try the best I could with the budget that I had to make it work. But you get to that pro level. Me, it was like I said, a 5th contest. I went to another pro-am and took 3rd, I believe. And then a month later was Utah Strongest Man. So that was the first time that you and I got to meet and kind of be out there. And that's where I turned pro in 2006. So I had started kind of at the end of 2005. And then I was, considered a pro within, I guess that would be 6 months, 7 months, like something like that. And so you're kind of into it at that point. So for you coming back, 2006, you compete there. And then at that point, the sport of strongman had kind of split up.
Yep.
And so we were in the split time where IFSA had started 2005, end of 2004, beginning 2005. And so you're coming in, you turn pro after that. Yep. Me, the same, right? And so, you're kind of going in and how did you qualify then for IFSA Worlds? Because that was kind of the next thing, right? 2000, because you went there in 2006.
Yeah, 2006.
Okay.
So basically, Van sends me home with a log and an Atlas stone. So that helped.
This is interesting. Van, so I actually asked to fly out to train with Van because I didn't know anybody at all, right? And I had gone out to his contest and kind of talked to him there, and I was like, I'm still trying to learn. Could I come out? And at this time, Van was one of the top dogs in America for sure.
Yeah.
He had won America's Strongest Man and whatever. So that's cool because he's a great guy. Very
Unbelievable guy.
Very helpful. So he gives you a log and a stone.
Stone.
Okay.
Yeah, he gives me a Williams
And said, hey,
strength
Nick,
log and a
go
stone.
train with this.
Go learn how to do these.
Okay. Here's your mission.
Yes. And then my next door neighbor, again, next to a farm, had a bunch of steel laying around and makes me a yoke.
Perfect.
And then I ordered some farmer's walks from York. And so that's kind of what I started my training on. In 2006, I go up and do the contest in Utah. Didn't quite qualify. There's another one 3 weeks later that Hal Thompson, of all people, were putting on in Philadelphia. And I qualified for nationals there.
Okay.
I finished 5th, which qualified me for nationals. And I mean, these are all the top guys,
of course,
in the country right now. And so went to nationals and got 6th at nationals.
Okay.
In the first national contest I ever did.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
Which the top 6 at that time were supposed to qualify to go to IFSA Worlds.
Okay.
Well, I get a phone call back a couple weeks later from Dion. And she's like, well, they're only going to take the top 3 now. But please keep training like you're going.
Okay.
You need to do that, okay? Please. I'm like, okay. So that's when Kevin Nee signed his contract with Metrics.
Yep.
John Anderson went to Russia and was doing sumo wrestling at a strongman contest.
And these guys had taken the top.
They were above me. They were in the top 5. Blew out his knee.
Okay.
And then that's when Derek Poundstone hurt his back.
Okay. So all of that happened right in there in 2006.
Yeah. So like 3 weeks out from IFSA Worlds, Dion calls me. She's like, have you been training? I'm like, yeah, because Derek just hurt his back.
Okay.
He's out. I'm like, yeah, I've been training. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, well, you're going.
Yeah. So people don't realize back then you had to choose between World's Strongest Man or IFSA.
Yep.
There was a contract. That was the way that it went down. You chose one or the other. It was not acceptable to go to both.
No.
It was a very hard line that was drawn there. So you said, hey, I'm in, go to IFSA Worlds 2006, break the Farmer's Walk world record, right?
I remember Yarno Hams were eating at this restaurant, and they're getting ready to pick all the heats and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you have Vasil, Misha, and Sadrunas as the heat leaders.
Okay.
Like the number 1 guys in the heats, and they were all pulling people's names out of
They just drew names. That's right.
They just drew names.
Yep.
And so Yarno's sitting there teasing me. He goes, there's a 800-pound yoke in this, or 900-pound yoke in this. You even going to be able to pick that up?
Really? Yeah. Wow.
He was teasing me about it. I'm like, I can squat it, so
I'll be all right.
I think I'll be okay. And he's just like, because I was like 285.
Okay.
Maybe 290.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy. So I get there. The first event we do is the Farmer's Walk.
Yep.
And I'm in the back jumping rope.
So these are 275-pound IFSA Farmer's Walks. And if anybody's familiar with that, it's a cylinder that has a handle inside
the cylinder.
So the cylinder, essentially, it's very difficult because it kind of rides on your legs, hits your legs. Also a fairly thick handle as well. So it's not an easy Farmer's.
And the knurling's inverted. It's different.
It is.
So instead of the knurling rising out, it goes in.
Yep. So you got to have a good grip.
Yeah, you got to have a real good grip.
So first event out of the gate.
Yeah, first event out of the gate, I'm racing Benedict Magnuson, of all people.
Okay.
And they're like, go down 25 meters, turn, run 25 meters, turn, and it's another 25 meters.
So 75 meters, which is a long run, yeah.
Yeah, and the world record for that was like 49, 50 seconds, and that was Andres Mermetz that had it.
Yeah, great grip. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Unbelievable grip.
Yeah.
And so me not knowing what I'm doing, was jumping rope, broke a sweat.
Yeah.
Had my cap on
because you're competing in a very cold environment.
Aluminum factory.
Yeah, aluminum factory. I remember seeing the videos from there, and you can see their breath coming out, and it's like, wow, this is nasty.
Yeah, it was cold. It was probably 20 degrees.
So you get warmed up doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then jump into that.
So we come out to go. They say go, and we take off. And Benedict's right with me. We make the turn. He's still right with me. We make the next turn, and I hear him drop.
Okay.
And I just keep running.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm going. Right before the finish line, I drop, grab, pick up, and cross the finish line.
Yeah.
And then stop at like 47.64 seconds or something like that.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, okay. And the cameras, everybody's going nuts. And I turn and start cheering on Benedict.
Yeah.
Trying to get him to finish. not realizing what I did.
Of course. Yeah. Well, you're competing. It's
Yeah. Well, plus I didn't really have a clue what I just did.
of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And come around the corner, and as soon as it's over, they got the camera in my face, and they're like, "Oh my God, you just broke the world record. How does it feel?" I go, "I did what?"
Yeah.
I go, "Great. I just picked it up and ran."
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I just performed the way that I wanted to. That's awesome. Man.
I think the double gripping of the dumbbells, the way I did at that 24-hour fitness, made it to where I got used to turning my hands out and holding them away from me.
Sure.
Because those dumbbells would just bang in my legs.
And on top of that, I mean, your grip is solid.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah. It's
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Nick has done some good grip feats. So anyway, so you're set the world record. The rest of that contest went.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is Andres Mermetz was in the next heat.
Okay.
So,
but he didn't beat you that day.
No. So the bus came in with the athletes on it because there was only one heat there at a time.
Okay.
And then we could stay and watch, or we could go back.
Yeah.
So he comes in, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Sodrunas or somebody. Walks right over and tells him that I beat his world record by 3 seconds. And
Yeah.
It's like, and he walks up to me. He's, you beat the record. I'm like, yeah. I told him the time, and he's like, well, I must try to get this back.
Yeah.
And he goes flying, and he goes flying, and he misses it by a second. And he drops him right where I did and crosses it. I'm walked over. He goes, man, if I wouldn't have dropped him. I go, I know, I dropped him right where you did. And he goes, you dropped him?
Yeah.
So
it was about the same, just faster.
Yeah, it was just a second quicker.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. It's so that, I mean, I feel as though, again, progression quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things are happening quick, but you had a really solid foundation from
all that powerlifting
and football and everything. So it just transferred over. And, from there, you went back in 2007 to IFSA Worlds?
Yes.
And IFSA World, that was the last IFSA Worlds.
Correct.
Right. So this is kind of where I come in to the mix a little bit. So in 2007, I actually qualified for IFSA Worlds.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And turned it down.
Yep.
Yeah. I turned it down because I really struggled with that. I really struggled with that decision at that time and what I wanted to do. And, I was kind of talking to different people, friends, people around me. And I said, oh, I qualified for IFSA Worlds. And they were like, oh, that's World's Strongest Man. And I was like, no, it's not World's Strongest Man. It's IFSA Worlds. But at that time, it was very much considered that a lot of the best athletes were in IFSA.
All of them but Marius.
So in the sport, it was like, oh, IFSA Worlds almost was better than World's Strongest Man because they had kind of taken all the top guys away to go to IFSA Worlds. And a lot of people don't realize that because it was only really 3 years, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, it was, 2005, 2007. And then 2007, IFSA Worlds, none of the guys got paid.
Yeah.
And it kind of fell apart. And so in hindsight, I struggled with the decision, but I feel like I made the right decision because I then went on to try to qualify for World's Strongest Man in 2007, which I failed to do. But it was interesting how that shook out because it was such a divide at that time, right? So you went to 2007 IFSA Worlds, and then
I tore my bicep 5 weeks out.
That's right, but you still went and competed.
I still went and did it. I missed the finals by a point.
It was a partial, right?
Yeah, it's like right across here.
Okay.
And I was cleaning an axle. It was 105 degrees outside, and I was cleaning an axle.
Oh, boy.
And it started to slide, and I thought I was going to hold it. Yeah, that didn't work out so well.
No.
So I went to the doc, and he's like looking at me. He goes, well, it's a muscle tear. And I'm like, he goes, what? He goes, you can't hurt it any worse. He goes, just go take the pain. Get out of here.
Yeah. Wow. So partial tear of the muscle, and you just essentially tried to work around that, right?
Yeah.
But you still went.
Yeah.
I mean, and I
still went, and I almost made it.
See, yeah. And we could, this is so fun for me because it's a lot of similarities, but I feel like working through some injuries like that, because I've had stuff where I got banged up too, and you still go, right?
Yeah.
You still make it happen.
Yeah.
No excuses.
You doing the stones in 17 with a torn hamstring,
yes.
and you loaded all the stones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, but the thing is, this is the question with regard to that, right? So we're talking background. We're talking growing up like you did. We're talking football, that kind of mentality that was ingrained into you.
Yep.
Right. And, I know for me, college basketball was, look, if you go down, you either get carried off or you get up.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
We don't show weakness. We don't show that you're hurt, and because it's showing your opponent that.
Correct.
Right? So with that, you get injured, I almost guarantee, and I don't even have to ask you, I don't think you even thought about stopping.
No, I didn't.
Right? It's not even a consideration.
No.
Right? I'm going to go. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to work around it. I'm going to make it happen. And that's such a thing now that it's crazy to me, because talking to you, it's normal. This is normal.
Right.
I would hear that and I would say the same thing. You're going to work around it. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel as though, I don't want to necessarily say everybody coming up, but the mindset has changed.
Oh, drastically.
The mindset has changed. It's just like, where did that rub some dirt on it and let's get this done? That is what I grew up with. It's what you grew up with, right? And it's not, oh no, I need a hug. I'm hurt, right?
Yeah.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
It's really the truth. And a lot of times that tough love, that tough mindset, you got to have it, right? Yep. And especially in strongman, powerlifting, football, any of these things. That's why I think sports are so important, because it teaches you at a young age, you know what? It's going to hurt and you might get hurt, right? But you work through it and you get tougher.
We're so worried about being safe. We're not living life anymore.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And it's like, look, life's an adventure. You're going to have good things that happen to you and bad things happen to you. And that molds you to people are. If kids go out and ride their bikes without a helmet on, yeah, some kids are going to hit their head. But guess what? No. You are going to learn how to properly fall.
Right. I don't know about you, but I rode my bike when I was a kid all of the time. No helmet. You didn't even think about it.
No,
hey, I'm gonna go play with my friends. Okay, cool. Take off. Yeah. Right. And now and I don't know. I'm not saying that bike helmets are bad. No, right? It's good. You want to learn to get better.
Yeah.
And you want to be safe. But at the same time, there's a fine line between I have a kid and I'm gonna protect them to the point that they don't get to experience life anymore.
Right.
And coddle them.
And the thing is as you grow to be an adult, how do you know something's actually dangerous other than what you've been told?
Exactly.
You don't. It's like you have a certain type of laser focus when you go to climb a tall ladder.
Yes.
Knowing what it feels like to have fallen.
Yeah.
Knowing you don't want to fall off that really tall ladder.
Well,
how you could experience that if you don't climb the ladder.
Yeah. You learn to not touch a hot stove by touching a hot stove. And all of a sudden, hey man, that doesn't feel good, right?
You look at your kid, don't touch that. It's hot.
Of course, I mean, it's not like for me, with the boys now, I'm gonna tell them, hey, they're 3 and 5.
Right.
So I'm gonna tell them like, look, you don't do that. But at some point, I know that they're gonna touch that stove, and I'm not saying that I'm gonna make them do it, but I know they're gonna do it, and that's how they're gonna learn. But
right.
At the same time, you got to kind of let them experience life. Yeah. Like you said, hey, a ladder. I mean, for me, I can say I didn't fall off a ladder, but I had a couple close calls, right?
Right. But that's what keeps you focused when you're doing it. It's you're like, that was close. I'm glad I was paying attention or had a grip or whatever, or had the balance right on it.
No, that's all. It's funny and that's a little bit of a tangent to go off on, but it's interesting because that's not the only injury you've had. It's not the only injury I've had or any of that, but you don't get to the top level. And, from there, I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about you. And you told me this yesterday, actually, and I didn't quite, I knew this, but I didn't quite put 2 and 2 together. You did your first World's Strongest Man at 42 years old.
Yeah.
42. And now you have done 10.
Correct. 10
times. 2 times in the top 10 finals.
Yep.
Right? 10 times since 42.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, I was, and I remember telling you, 2010, I don't know if you remember this or not. We were eating, and you had made the finals. And I remember I said something to you, like, cause I could tell you were almost kind of like, wow, this is crazy. And I said something to you, like, you earned it, man. Yeah. You deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve to be in the final. Like, you're talking like you don't deserve, but it almost was like so overwhelming and awesome.
It was.
And making the finals at World's Strongest Man is tremendous, right? Like, there's not very many guys that get to do that. And especially then coming back year after year after year. I mean, 10 different times at World's Strongest Man, 2 times finalist. And, this is all after, a lot of people would have hung it up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
like 10 years after people would have actually retired.
Yes. So, with that being said, I mean, there's, a lot of stuff we could go into. We'll probably need to do another one of these at some point, with World's Strongest Man. But, it's kind of like we went through the the climb up, if you will, to where you got, you're going from, powerlifting, best in the world at powerlifting, now strongman. And, I mean, at this point now, you've now competed back in powerlifting. So you've kind of kept both of them going.
Yep.
And you have literally all federations, across all federations, all-time world record total.
Yep.
Squat and deadlift, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, and that's just a 50 plus masters.
In 45 to 49 and then in over 50.
So both of those.
Yes.
See, and that's incredible, but you're still going strong,
I'm the oldest person to ever total over 1,000 kilos.
See, that's incredible. But again,
48.
I think it comes back to mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a way that you approach.
Why should
that
I
mindset.
listen to society?
No, but so many guys, and this is a point I kind of want to talk to you about, I mean, because that's phenomenal. The achievements are phenomenal. The career is phenomenal. I mean, just that, but again, starting early, your mindset now, and now what I would say is you've got a lot of guys from your generation that kind of got into lifting when they were in high school or around that age and training, and it started to become much more normal. Yep. Right. And things have evolved certainly a lot since then. But now you've got guys, and I've talked to a lot of them that are into their 40s, they're into their 50s, they're into their 60s, into their 70s. They're still training and they're still living life and going after it. Yeah. Right. And society as a whole
wants you to shut it down and do nothing.
Well, at 40, right? Yeah. At 40.
Your life is over.
Yeah. Hey, well, you're not doing that anymore.
Sit around and drink and smoke cigarettes till you die.
And it's just crazy, but you've been one of these guys that has been pretty outspoken about, hey, age is just a number. I'm going to go after this and I'm going to make it happen. And, I think that you've inspired a lot of those guys in that generation. You can do it, right? And it's like, hey, you're 50, so what? You're 50, right?
Go be the best you can be.
Yeah.
Be the best you can be and enjoy your life. And if it's what you do, if it's what you're having fun at, go do it. I'm going to keep doing this till I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
And if once I'm not having fun is when I'll find something else to do.
But I think that message, right? And I mean, is that something that, and only you could answer this, as you're going through say into your 40s, mid 40s, late 40s, you're coming up on 50, did more people start talking to you about that or bringing your age up and saying, hey, Nick,
all the time.
Right. But when it comes to you, I think it's a normal answer. It's like, hey, I'm still having fun. I'm still going. What's wrong? Right. It's normal to you because, again, competitiveness, hard work, challenge, all of these things are things that you've dealt with your entire life. Right. Right. So it's not any different to you. So when people bring it up, it's like a talking point. Everybody wants to bring it up. People have started to bring it up with me. Right. And
I told them out of their minds.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. Right.
People are like, people say stuff and I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
He's not even his strongest yet.
Yeah.
You don't get that. He's got 8 to 10 more years of still getting bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
And people don't understand.
And I mean, that's again, a whole different thing, but it's like that mindset. I just, as you got into that and people, and I'm going to get into that too, with more people saying different things. And I know that it's not going to stop. And, again, it's one of these things where people take and run with different
I wear it
things.
as a badge of honor now.
Yeah, of course. But, that mindset, I mean, how does it make you feel that you inspire people?
Good.
In that age range. And you got guys that are like, man, look at Nick, man. He's, now 53, still doing it, still kicking butt.
Yeah. I feel good about it. I want to teach people that we don't have to listen to conventional wisdom because a lot of conventional wisdom is wrong.
Yes.
And as long as you do things intelligently with some smarts and thought behind it.
Yep.
I want my body to last.
Of course.
And it's doing pretty good. And I went and gotten stem cells and things like that will help rejuvenate my body and things like that. And you know what? I feel great.
Yeah.
So why should I stop? And people don't have to stop. And you actually have a better quality of life as you age if you keep training. You don't have to take it to the level that we've gone to.
Of course.
But as long as you're trying to be healthy and active and fun, I want to be able to do all the things a 20-year-old could do when I'm 80.
That's awesome.
That's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to go, climb up into the mountains and go on hikes and do stuff that people can't do because that's quality of life to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of power in that for people to hear that, but also to say, you know, hey, you're 60, you're 70, whatever. Why do you have to stop?
You don't,
you know, and why it doesn't have to be at an extreme level.
No,
but just go in and train and improve your quality of life. I mean, there's so many positive things that come from that. And I think the carryover again, and I think I might've mentioned this earlier, when you're younger, confidence, work ethic, going after goals, all of these things can happen. Even if somebody's listening to this that has never trained in their life and they're 50, 60, just go get started.
Yeah.
It's never too late to make that change and to improve. And even if you've fallen off that train, so to speak, and you're like, oh, I used to train when I was in my 20s or 30s, and now I just kind of stopped and, you know, life took over, whatever. You can make excuses about it, or you can go get it done. Yeah. Right. And just, it starts on day one.
Yeah. Go get it done.
Yes. But you don't need to wait for the perfect timing.
I find it's really funny. I met Jeffrey Hazlitt at an airport once, and he's got like a news channel and stuff like that that's on the airplanes. And
okay,
he's a big businessman.
All right.
And we were talking. I go, look, why save for retirement if you're not going to invest in your body?
It's a good point.
What's the point to having all this money sitting in the bank when you retire if you're not physically able to go do fun stuff when you quit working?
Totally.
You know, it's as much, if not more than important than actually putting the money away in the bank.
Did you said that or he said that?
I said that to him.
And what did he say?
He agreed and then put me on his podcast.
That's awesome, man. It's a great point. I mean, you work your entire life to save, to have a retirement. But if you've let your body go,
but you haven't invested in yourself.
Yeah, and your health is not good. And
health is the most valuable thing you have.
That's man, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I know it's so true though. Mm-hmm. It's so true for so many people to go after your goals and dreams, but it doesn't really matter what age you're at, right? And don't give up on yourself.
No.
Don't ever give up on yourself. Yeah.
No, the only person you're letting down is you. Why would you do that?
See, that's
why
a lot of power in that.
Why on earth would you do that?
Yeah.
The only person who's going to pay for it at the end is you.
Big
time.
And
I mean, so whether I'm competing or not competing, I'm always going to go train.
Of course.
And there's going to come a day where, you know, I'm not going to want to go into the gym and go full bore. I'm going to go in for more to just movement, range of motion, flexibility, and stuff like that. But like I said, when I'm 80, I want to be able to do all the stuff people did when they were 20. Jack LaLanne pulled all those boats across San Francisco Bay when he was in his 90s?
That's amazing. Yeah. But again, he's kind of one of the pioneers, if you will.
Pioneers
of you know, not worrying about age.
Right. And telling people you can still exercise, you can still do all these things. It's like you don't have to just sit there and let your body fall apart and degrade.
Totally. Yeah.
There's things you can do, so go do them.
Yeah. So moving on from there.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that a lot of people listening to this.
Well, the other thing is, remember, is I also worked a full-time job.
That's a good point. Very good point.
The beer business for 18 years. I was working 50 plus hours a week.
While all of this was happening. So you're still 50 plus hours a week, trained.
50, 55, yeah.
Being a dad, being a husband, all of that happening. And you're still going to World's Strongest Man, still getting better.
Correct. It's all about what you want to do in life.
Big time.
And what's important to you. I mean, there's parts of it I would love to have worked on more.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have the time. The self-promotion, going to expos. I could go almost, the only expo I'd ever get to go to is the one at the Olympia because it was in Vegas.
It's right there.
It's right there. So there's so many of those other things that I would have loved to do more of.
Yeah.
But I was busy working.
Of course. And you made it happen. That's the thing is, you know, the opportunities are different.
Yeah.
Right. They change. And you know, I feel like, you know, things have evolved, and that's probably a whole different conversation about how things have changed and evolved. We talked about it a little bit here and there. It's awesome to see the sport get to where it is and for us to get to where it is. But speaking of that, with working and with opportunities and everything, I feel like one of the biggest things we haven't touched on is the History Channel show.
Yeah.
Strongest Man in History.
Yeah.
So that was
our show.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome, man. It was, you know, the four of us, you and I and Eddie and Robert, you know, making that happen, right? But that was a big opportunity, I think, for all of us. And one of the things that you had to do to make that show happen was to quit your job.
Yeah.
literally quit your job. So we're talking, you went through all of that, through all those years, and then this gets put on your plate and you say, hey, in order to make this happen, we had to be on the road a lot. So in order to go down that path, I remember we talked about it. It was like, hey man, I'm going to have to quit my job. I'm going all in.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this happen. And I said, okay, you know, I'm going to have to sacrifice time with my family and kids and, you know, some of the work that I'm doing. All of us did.
Yeah.
Right. But we opened that door, you know, and, you know, going into that show, I think we all weren't quite sure, you know, what was going to happen. And
I was scared to death. But
after the pilot, so the pilot, a lot of people don't know about the pilot.
Nope.
Right. So we flew up to Nova Scotia and we essentially had to film a show to sell. Right. So to
the network.
Yeah. We had to pitch it. Right. So the concept was there. I love the concept because I love strength history, as I know you do too. Right. So some of these guys that kind of paved the way, so to speak, before our time. I always
hundreds of years ago in a lot of cases.
I always have a lot of respect for like old time strongman and you know, even guys that were more recent to us, where you know they didn't have the exposure. You know, they didn't have video necessarily. It was maybe a picture, maybe this or that, but it really was a legend. Right? It's like a legend of this person did this, and we got to go figure out if it was real. So we go and film this pilot, and I think all of us left there not knowing how it was going to go, right?
Yeah, we did. But that was a lot. We had so much fun.
Oh, we did. I think
I feel bad for everybody in Nova Scotia because that episode actually warrants. People need to see that because
Angus McCaskill.
Angus McCaskill was amazing.
Yeah, it was so eye-opening, but I think all of us left there after that like, wow, this is going to be really cool. I think we can make this really cool, and we can honor all of these guys we're going to talk about and kind of bring light to them and tell their story, right? We get to kind of tell their story and decipher whether things had been embellished a little bit or not.
Like the boat?
But either way, it's telling their story and putting out to the world. And that's, I think, what we were all so excited about. But that was a big commitment, man. It was a big commitment. You literally quit your job. I mean, do you regret quitting your job?
No.
And going down that path?
Nope.
So what was it like? I mean, I know what it was like, of course, but you know, just sharing with people, hey, what was filming that show like for us?
Oh, filming that show is unbelievable. I mean, getting to hang out with you and Eddie and Robbie, and going to do the places and see the things. Have you guys in my home?
Yes, we got to go to Vegas. For one of the episodes was based in Las Vegas, which was pretty cool.
Yep, and then going to England and going to Eddie's home and where he was from and finding out some interesting family things about Eddie.
Well, I'll ask. I'm gonna try to get Eddie on here at some point, and I'm gonna ask him that stuff. But it's man, it was crazy. It was a crazy ride. But you know, I think people don't realize we had to film. It was 13 hours a day.
Yeah.
For 6 days an episode, if I remember right?
Well, it was 8.
8 days.
So we had the 2 traveling days
and then 2 days or 6 days of the 13 hours.
Yeah, and then 5 days of filming and then 1 day of interviews.
So I don't know about you. I've never asked you this actually. So we did not get to be part of the editing, right?
No.
So we went and filmed all of that content, which you're talking a lot of content for one show, which is edited down to what, 45 minutes?
I think it's 47 or something.
So but still 13 hours a day for 6 days of content edited down to 40. And I remember, I don't know about you, right? I remember when the show came on and I would sit down and I'm like, oh man, we did this, and this. Yeah. I can't wait until they see how they edit that down and put it in. And I would watch the show and I'd get done. And I remember, you know, people would say, man, that was so good. It was so good. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We filmed all of these things and where were they? I can't believe that was like the funniest thing or the best part of that episode was, you know, maybe what I thought or you thought, and it wouldn't get in. And you know, it's hard, but what they would always do is they would always film much more than they ever needed.
Correct.
So they had kind of a backup to this and a backup to that. And you know,
I would love to see Warsaw go and do his own editing for it.
Yeah. So Rob Warsaw. Yeah. He was kind of the, I don't know if you want to call him mastermind, whatever.
Creative producer.
Yeah, him and Brian,
and director.
Yeah. So they kind of had the field director, right? So it was like, hey, let's do this. And
Wendell was like the money guy and the side and the production side. And
yeah,
Rob was the creative side.
Big time. It was really cool, man. It was really cool putting it together.
But Rob's stuff was so funny.
It was.
And I mean, he was the guy for the first season of Duck Dynasty. I can only imagine how much funnier the shows would have been.
And what I think a lot of people that have asked about this show, they need to understand is, once it gets past us and once it gets past Rob and the networks, has their people involved, there's a lot of people that want to have input on how the show is going to go out.
Correct.
And what the storyline's going to be, what we're doing, how it's kind of told, if you will, to the viewers. And I think that's where a lot of things started. At least I didn't quite understand that until we got into it. I don't know if you did at all, but you kind of have these opinions, right? You have all these opinions coming in, and there's sometimes opinions that are maybe should be followed and some that shouldn't be followed as much. And I think that's kind of where we got, because the show actually for the first season got great ratings. Yeah. People loved it.
Top 15.
I mean, people still talk about it with me. I'm sure they do with you.
They do.
And I loved it, man. And I think that, in some way, shape, or form, bringing all of those former strongmen to life and telling their story.
That was really special.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
You could see the joy that you had at Paul Anderson's place.
Oh God, man, that was cool. That was cool. I think you're talking about like the plates in his weight room and
going into that cellar underneath there where he had the hole in the ground where he used to lift the safe and all that stuff.
That was killer, that was surreal in a lot of ways, right? And some of the stuff, even discovering. You remember the round head York dumbbells? You remember those?
Yes.
Right, and the 100 was missing.
Yep.
And his family had him out, and they put him out in the rain first. And I was like, oh, my God, what are you doing? You're putting these out there. This is like priceless.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, oh, wow, like this is amazing. And one of the hundreds, they had the whole set, and one of the hundreds was missing. You remember this?
Yes.
Right? So we go up, the very last thing, we didn't film this part, but his widow took us to the room in their house where he had kind of some of his achievements and different stuff. And the weights that he used to do the demonstrations with, his pinky holds.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
And so he would hold these weights out with his pinkies, and it ended up, I think they told us that he couldn't even straighten his, bend his one pinky because it was so messed up from doing these demonstrations. Right. But he would do it to send a message to kids, which was amazing. And his youth home is still going, still operational, still doing good things. And, that's a legacy we could go into. Certainly.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah. But the dumbbell, his family didn't even realize he had cut that dumbbell up to make those weights for the pinky lift. So that was the 100-pound dumbbell. So they were 50-pound weights that he was holding with his pinkies out, and he had welded a little ring on them to hold, because that was the York dumbbell. Wow. That was the York dumbbell. And because I was so upset that they had lost that, and they said, because they used to have those weights, I think, at the boys' home or something. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, somebody maybe took off with it. And I was, me, I'm like, oh, how could you lose that? But it made it even cooler because he took it and cut it up to do those demonstrations with and welded those rings on there. So, that show was cool, man. That a lot of good memories there that we could probably go longer.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Out of all the scenes that made the cutting room floor that people didn't see, what was the one scene that you wish would have made it on the show?
I wish there was a scene that you weren't part of, actually, but Robert and I in Scotland went to take a bagpipe lesson.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll tell you what, man, that was quite possibly one of the funniest things I've ever been involved in, because there's a lot of teaching and learning how to do a bagpipe. You don't even get to touch a bagpipe there unless you've done all of this training to get to that point. So they let us do it, which was kind of not normal. But you put so much air pressure into a bagpipe to make it do what it does. And if you put too much, it is like it doesn't work right. So you have to kind of keep a certain amount of pressure there.
Like the bladder's got to
whatever.
Stay a certain
so I don't know if it was what it was, but I just kind of, Robert was in there and I was like, man, we're turning this, I'm going to have fun with you. Right. And I didn't tell him this, but I was like, so I turned it into a contest. Right. And I'm like, so I would blow it harder than it was supposed to be, and it would make this noise. And I was like, yes, that was so good. I'd turn it into like I beat him, and I was high-fiving this lady that was giving us the lessons. Like, wasn't that so good? And she's looking at me like, what are you talking about? You just messed it up. And I knew I was doing it wrong. But Oberst, and he of course rolled with me on it, right? Sure. And so I remember Brian and Rob, the people that were filming it were literally on the floor laughing. It was so funny. It was just one of those things where it was, if I could just get that one clip and put it out to people, it was amazing. It was like, I mean, I'm just remember it was so funny, but people, that's the thing, that episode went out, that wasn't part of it. People don't know that it happened. And it's just some footage somewhere that probably will never be shown, you know. Well, what was yours? I got to pick mine. What was yours?
Mine had to be when Robert and I went and made the mead.
Okay.
And Robert intentionally messed it all up.
Wonderful. That sounds very, he probably messed this bagpipe thing up too. We'll just blame him, for that, but yeah,
because there's strict, when you're making alcohol, you have to be very careful with the yeast. It can't be too hot because you kill the yeast.
I remember you guys coming back and talking about that.
It was so funny.
Yeah,
just because I didn't know. I'm trying to be serious and actually make it.
Of course you were.
That's how, the beer business, that's how I take that seriously.
Yeah, that's how you would do it for sure. I don't even have to be at the scene, and I would know that you were like, all right, I'm sure you were like, Robbie, stop it, dude. Like, act nice. And he's in there just like making a fool out of himself, I'm sure. And the people are probably looking at him weird.
One of the things that are actually really deadly.
Okay.
And it says, do not sniff or inhale. And he's putting it underneath my nose.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. I was like, great. Thanks, Robbie.
That's really good.
Harmful, fatal, swallow. What are you doing?
Yeah. That's funny.
That one, I think, it was pretty funny.
God, there's so many good things, man, with that. But moving on from there, what's next for Nick Best?
Next for me,
goals. What are you going after? What do you want to get done, man?
I want to total 1,000 kilos over 50.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a power.
And you're at 990, right?
990.
Okay.
So that's the biggest total of all time over the age of 50.
Okay.
So I want to break 1,000 kilos. That's kind of, I'm going to do that, try to do that in May.
May of 2022.
Yep,
Got it.
May of this year. Probably do Chad Coy's Masters contest in late June.
Okay.
Just for fun, though. I mean, whatever turns out is what it turns out. I'm going to take it seriously, but I'm not going to.
Of course, just like you would. Yeah.
And then Masters World's Strongest Man, OSG.
Later in the year.
Awesome,
man.
Depending on how that goes, one more run at World's Strongest Man.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Age is just a number.
It is. And if your body's got it and you feel good, go for it.
Awesome, man. Anything else you want to end with?
Nah, just thanks, man. This was a lot of fun. It really was.
So your Instagram, if people want to follow you,
just Nick Best Strongman.
Nick Best Strongman.
Same on YouTube.
Same on YouTube.
Strongman.
Perfect. So
try to make it easy.
Go give Nick some love. Really appreciate you sharing all the stories, man. We got into some, there's just so much to talk about.
We could go on for another couple hours.
Easy, man. It's just kind of like, and maybe, you coming back, we can get into some more detail on some different things if people want to see that or hear that or whatever. But
time you want, man.
Yeah. So really appreciate your time, man. And the message, I think the takeaway is so important, right? Go after your goals, go after your dreams, put in that hard work. Don't make excuses.
Live life.
That's it.
Enjoy your life. And whatever your goal is, whether it's physical, mental, anything, just enjoy life and have fun and be the best you can be at whatever it is you want to do.
Love it. That's the perfect sign off right there. Words to live by. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. And if you got some enjoyment out of this, you got something as a takeaway, make sure to share the show, share it with your friends, get people to follow. We're going to keep bringing awesome content to all of you and keep inspiring you guys to go out and be great.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Later. There you go.